accompanied by Navabihi by 9. Atmagatim, spiritual realization. Swamatre, onto his own mother. Uchi, uttered. Yaya, by which. Atma Samalam, coverings of the spirit soul. Guna Sangha, associated with the modes of nature. Bankam, mud. Asmin, this very life. Viduya, being washed off. Kapilasya, of Lord Kapila. Gatim, liberation. Prapede, achieved. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki. Please hear. The Lord then appeared as the Kapila incarnation, being the son of the Prajapati Brahmana Kardama and his wife Devahuti, along with 9 other women, sisters. He spoke to his mother about self-realization, by which in that very lifetime she became fully cleansed of the mud of the material modes and thereby achieved liberation, the path of Kapila. Purport, please hear. The instructions of Lord Kapila to his mother Devahuti are fully described in the third canto, chapters 25 to 32 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And anyone who follows the instructions can achieve the same liberation obtained by Devahuti. The Lord spoke Bhagavad Gita, and thereby Arjuna achieved self-realization. And even today, anyone who follows the path of Arjuna can also attain the same benefit as Sri Arjuna. The scriptures are meant for this purpose. Foolish, unintelligent persons make their own interpretations by imagination and thus mislead their followers, causing them to remain in the dungeon of material existence. However, simply by following the instructions imparted by Lord Krishna or Lord Kapila, one can obtain the highest benefit even today. The word Atmagatim is significant in the sense of perfect knowledge of the Supreme. One should not be satisfied simply by knowing the qualitative equality of the Lord and the living being. One should know the Lord as much as can be known by our limited knowledge. It is impossible for the Lord to be known perfectly, as He is, even by such liberated persons as Shiva and Brahma. So what to speak of other demigods or men in this world? Still, by following the principles of the great devotees and the instructions available in the scriptures, one can know to a considerable extent the features of the Lord. His Lordship Kapila, the incarnation of the Lord, instructed his mother fully about the personal form of the Lord, and thereby she realized the personal form of the Lord and was able to achieve a place in Vaikuntha Loka, where Lord Kapila predominates. Every incarnation of the Lord has his own abode in the spiritual sky. Therefore, Lord Kapila also had his separate Vaikuntha planet. The spiritual sky is not void. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and in each of them, the Lord, by his innumerable expansions, predominates, and the pure devotees who are there also live in the same style as the Lord and his eternal associates. When the Lord descends personally or by his personal plenary expansions, such incarnations are called Amsa, Kala, Guna, Yuga and Manavratara incarnations. And when the Lord associates descend by the order of the Lord, such incarnations are called Saktya Vesha incarnations. But in all cases, all the incarnations are supported by the invulnerable statements of the authorized scriptures, and not by any imagination of some self-centered protagonist. Such incarnations of the Lord in either of the above categories always declare the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the ultimate truth. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Truth is just a process of negation of the form of the Lord from the mundane conception of the Supreme Truth. The living entity, by their very constitution, are spiritually as good as the Lord, and the only difference between them is that the Lord is always supreme and pure, without contamination by the modes of material nature, whereas the living entities are apt to be contaminated by association with the material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. This contamination by the material modes can be washed off completely by knowledge, renunciation, and devotional service. Devotional service to the Lord is the ultimate issue, and therefore those who are directly engaged in the devotional service of the Lord not only acquire the necessary knowledge in spiritual science, but also attain detachment from material connection, and are thus promoted to the kingdom of God by complete liberation, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Mam cha yo vibhiracharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samitityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Even in the non-liberated stage, a living entity can be directly engaged in the transcendental loving service of the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, or his planetary expansions like Rama and Nrsimha. Thus, with the proportionate improvement of such transcendental devotional service, the devotee makes definite progress towards Brahma Gatim or Atma Gatim, and ultimately attains Kapilasya Gatim, or the abode of the Lord, without difficulty. The antiseptic potency of the devotional service to the Lord is so great that it can neutralize the material infection even in the present life of the devotee. A devotee does not need to wait for his next birth to complete liberation. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadameyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachari Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Dishatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhuter matpir yahima puro vibhu nirmaya shete yajamoshu purusha Bhunkte gunansho dashatmaka sholam krishishta bhagavan vachamsi me Shri Krishna sharanam sharanagatam katha amritam satata pibatam Bhakti Vedanta marga pantanam sarvaloka rishi deva janna prasannam Sarvaloka rishi deva janna prasannam. Hare Krishna. So in this chapter, it's a new chapter, chapter 7, Lord Brahma is speaking and describing to Narad Muni the scheduled incarnations that appear within this universal creation. So we see that this same concept is also prevalent in Canto 1, where sages asked Suta Goswami 6 questions, which led towards the foundation of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So the first question was, what is the ultimate good? Second was, what is the essence of all the Vedas? Why did Krishna incarnate in this material world as a son of Devaki and Vasudev? Number 4 and number 5 are the description of all the Purusha avatars, the description of all the Leela avatars, and what is the essence of all the processes? And we already know the answer to question 6, which is bhakti, devotional service. And in this chapter, we're going through question 5, which is the description of all the Leela avatars. So in this chapter, he's going through the Leela avatars of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here in this verse, Lord Brahma is explaining the wonderful descent of the Supreme Lord, who appears as Lord Kapaladev. Lord Kapaladev is the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he took birth and appeared simply to appreciate or disseminate, which means to spread the transcendental knowledge of the Lord. Lord Kapaladev took birth in the house of Father Kardama Muni and Mother Devahuti, as it says in the verse as well. And he together was born with 9 sisters. Lord Kapaladev is especially known as the avatar that manifests as a supreme opulence of knowledge. Through his teachings of Sankhya philosophy to his mother Devahuti, everything materially and spiritually is explained in scientific and analytical terms, that everyone who studies these teachings, all the questions in life at every level are answered. We might think that he isn't the Supreme Lord, he's an incarnation, but the truth is all incarnations are mediums for the Lord himself, through which the Supreme Authority or the Supreme Personality is speaking. So Lord Kapaladev is the avatar of Lord Narayana, and he represents the supreme opulence of knowledge, vidya, jnana. Each of the different avatars of the Lord, they all manifest specific opulences or aishvarya from the Supreme Truth. In Bhagavatam, it's described that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has 6 opulences, which are wealth, fame, strength, influence, beauty, and renunciation. So if we go through, just as examples, some of the avatars of Bhagwan, let's say Lord Nrsimhadev, he manifested the supreme opulence of strength. We can see that in his pastime as well. We see Lord Vamandev, his supreme opulence was renunciation. Lord Ramachandra, his supreme opulence was strength, but not only strength, his supreme opulence was also beauty. So we might think that's a bit weird, but there's examples. We see the Rakshasi, the demoness Srupnaka. She, even though she was a great demoness, she was still attracted by Ram's beauty. Furthermore, all the female or all the sages during this era, they all approached Ram during the time and said that we want to become your wives. But Ram promised them that in the next life you will become my wives, and we see that in the next life when Krishna has all his wives. But he also says that in this life I only have one wife, and that wife is Sita Mata. So in Bhagavad Gita 7.26, it says, Vedaham samatitani vartamani karjuna vavishyani chabhutani mam tu veda nakashana. It says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he knows everything, the past, present, and future. He knows every living being. There is nothing unknown to him. So when Kapaladev is explaining, we must hear submissively with complete faith, because this thus opens us the path of real knowledge in our life, because he manifests the opulence of knowledge. That was his purpose, to spread knowledge, which is to open this path of real knowledge in our life. We need to, the only process is through our development of our sadhana, and thus improve, so that one day when it does come to our last breath, our last moment in life, we can remember the Supreme Lord Krishna. We might think that, okay, when I'm about to die, I'll just think of Krishna and that's it, I'm safe. But it is said that, in Bhagavatam, it's said that in our last moment, in our last breath, we think of the thing which is most prevalent in our life. So let's say I'm a meat eater. That was the most prevalent thing in my life. I like to eat meat. But at the time of death, if I'm thinking, okay, I need to remember Krishna, that's not what's going to happen. We're going to remember that, I'm a meat eater, and in the next life, that will be our repercussions. That's what we'll be born with as an animal, or even lower. So we can't just remember Krishna on the spot at the time of death. What we need to develop is our Krishna Prem, which can only be done through chanting, associating with devotees. And associating with devotees is the biggest, because it is said that Bhakti Vikas Swami says this. He says that devotees are crazy. They even when you meet one, and you don't meet one for the rest of your life, but you've met one devotee, he will drag you up from your stage. So association of pure devotees is very important. In Bhagavatam, it's explained that ete chacha kalo pushau kanes tu bhagavan swayam. It is said that all these great avatars, they have come for specific purposes, but the source of all these avatars is a person who fully possesses all six opulences simultaneously. And if we were to have any guesses, that person is Krishna. So Krishna in his incarnation, as Kapaladev, is instructing us that the attachment for material sense enjoyment, or in fact any attachment to any temporary thing in this material world, is the cause of entanglement and thus bondage and suffering for repetition of birth and death. But that same attachment, this is the teachings of Kapaladev, that same attachment, when it is applied to a sadhu, a self-realized devotee, that opens up the door of liberation. We might think that how can attachment open the door for liberation? But it's the thing we're attached to. If we're attached to something material, something temporary, that's not going to open the door of liberation. The only opening for the door of liberation is through the attachment towards Krishna Katha, Krishna Prem, having that sense that Krishna, I am nothing without you, you are everything. So Kapila Muni explains that the true art of disentangling ourselves from the bondage of this world. He explains that whatever our attachments are, we have to direct them and become so attached to self-realized devotees, to Krishna Katha, that being attached to the association of devotees drags us up from our modes. So we might be in the mode of ignorance, in the mode of passion. But unless we're in that mode of goodness, always talking about Krishna, always thinking about Krishna, having Krishna in the center of everything that we do, then there's no point of having everything. So it is said that being attached to the association of devotees, sadhu satsang, sadhu sangha, is very, very important. Kapaladev explains that this is the beginning of spiritual life, to learn how to seek refuge in the association of devotees. Philosophers these days, they say that do whatever you want, if it's good, if it's bad, but just do it with Krishna in the center, and always at the end, always accept that what you're doing is wrong, and thus those things that you're doing wrong go away. But that's not how it works. This is one of the greatest offenses. If we look at the 10 great offenses listed in Bhagavatam, it said that one of the greatest offenses given to us is to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. So I can go and eat meat, I can go and gamble, but if after that I go at the end of the week and I say, Krishna, I'm sorry, but then on Monday, again, I'm back eating meat and doing gambling, what's the point of realizing what you've done is wrong if you're not going to improve on those things? So a real example of this is, let's say I do eat meat and then I do understand what I'm doing is wrong, and I pray to Krishna, Krishna, I'm sorry, I'm not going to eat meat again. And then on Monday, from that day onwards, I don't eat meat. That's the real way of not doing what is wrong. If on Monday I start eating meat again, I start gambling again, what's the point of accepting what you've done is wrong? So in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that Nave Sa'atmatavat Sukritamaha Saktas Trilokyam Bhagavan Vasudevaha Nastri Kritam Kashalam Anusvita Na Lakshmanam Kapi Vihatmanam Arhati. It is said that Atmatvatam, of the self-realized souls, it is said that we are born with Krishna in our hearts and we die with Krishna in our hearts. But it's up to us if we choose to remember or forget him. He is dormant, and he's just sitting there, that one day this devotee will call out for me that Krishna, Krishna, I am nothing without you. Very beautiful verse from the Shikshashtakam. Nayanam galadashrudaraya vadanam gadgad rudrayagira pulake nichitam vapukada tava nama grahene bhavishyati. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with the tears of love flowing constantly? When I chant your holy name, when will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand up on the end at the recitation of your name? We need this feeling, as I said in the Bhagavatam verse, the feeling of kash malam, the feeling of the suffering of separation. That is what's needed in order to develop a pure sense of devotional service. Krishna is within us, but it's our choice if we choose to enliven him, or if we choose to pray to him. Otherwise, he's still there. He's in everyone's heart. He's in every living entity, but he's dormant. He's not, because we haven't chanted or we haven't appropriately done devotional service or our sadhana. He's not there. It is said that since the Lord is spiritually qualified, he is attached to servants who always render a transcendental loving service unto him. So in the purport of 5.19.6, it is said that the Lord is never attached to any material qualities. Although he is the supersoul of all living entities, he is specifically manifest to those who are self-realized, and he's especially dear to the hearts of his transcendental devotees. So it is clearly, that's the answer. He's dear to the hearts of his transcendental devotees. And in order to become a devotee, we need to do all these things. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Bhadasevanam. It is said that in order to have that feeling of separation, we need to associate with devotees and redirect our attachments to our material activities as given to us by instruction by Kapila Muni. So let's say we're eating food which is vegetarian, without onion, garlic, without eggs, without fish, no meat at all. That food, if it's offered to Krishna, that is prasadam. So that's a way of redirecting our attachment to food, which is a source of sense enjoyment, towards the pleasure of Krishna, because we're serving him food. We have a small tulsi leaf on top, serving him food, and then we are ourselves consuming the food that is prasadam, which is the Lord has accepted it. So it is said in Bhagavatam that Kapilas Tattva Sankyata Bhagavan. Kapila Muni is Bhagavan, but nowadays Prabhupada says that the word Bhagavan is very misused. What we need to understand that Bhagavan is no ordinary person. Nowadays we go to India and people are accepting themselves that, I am Bhagavan. Humans cannot be Bhagavan. It's not possible. You are going to die one day. Even the great devotees, Shiva, Brahma, their lives are not forever as well. Brahma has a lifespan. Brahma is going to die one day as well. If someone like him is not accepting that I am the Supreme Lord, who are we on this earth with 100-year lives to accept that I am Bhagavan? It is said that Prabhupada quotes this verse from Bhagavad Gita 9.11 that Avaya Janti Ma Mudha, that Krishna appeared as a human being, and Prabhupada says that us as mudhas, as rascals, as fools, we think that he is an ordinary person just because he appeared as a human. He appeared as a human so that we can understand through his leelas, through his the stories we hear, that what is he trying to teach us, the moral incentive value of his teachings. We see that Arjuna says that Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, 10.12, that my dear Krishna, you are Param Brahman. Brahman means that Brahman means that spirit soul. He is the greatest of the great. We are also a spirit soul, but we just we think that we are the body. That's the biggest misconception in life. There's an example Prabhupada gives of a gold bar. If a gold bar is covered with dirt, which is like our material body, is the gold not going to be there? No. If we wipe the dirt off, the gold is still underneath. The spirit soul is still within us. But we still think that that dirt on top, our material body, is the source of everything. We have a spirit soul within us. And we need to, it is said, to understand this spiritual identification, we need to understand our ultimate goal of life, which isn't to please our body. It's to please our spirit soul. Thus, sometimes Prabhupada was asked, how come you don't work on your, you don't try to improve your body, and what are you doing if you're not trying to improve your daily living? And Prabhupada said, so one day you're going to die. And the person said, yes. He said, I'm working for my plan after that, not before that. You are working until you die. I'm working for eternal benefit. It is said that this dharma that we need to understand, which is the ultimate goal of life, it is said that, very famous word, sarva dharma prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. We have, it is said that we have created dharmas in this world. We see the Hindu dharma, Muslim dharma, Englishman, Christian, all these different religions. These are different dharmas that have been created. But Prabhupada says that these are all manufactures. Manufactures, but they're not real dharma. Real dharma is Krishna consciousness. This is to have our soul know what is right, not only improving our body. In Bhagavad Gita it says, Bahunam janmanam ante jnananam mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma surdurlabhaha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes, and that and all that is. It is said in 3.25.1, it's that chapter, from chapter 25 to 32, is based around Kapila Muni's verses. He talks to his mother. So in the first verse of chapter 25 in Canto 3, it is said that the Vedas are meant to elevate one from the mode of ignorance to the platform of goodness. When one is situated in the mode of goodness, he is able to understand the knowledge of the self and transcendental knowledge. The knowledge cannot be appreciated by any ordinary man. Thus, in order to get out of this ordinary man mindset or mind, we need to read more books, we need to read more Prabhupada's books, we need to talk to more devotees, we need to associate with more devotees in order to get that pure heart, to understand this philosophy, this transcendental knowledge. So, it is said that human beings are meant for regulated life. By nature, there is a regulation in animal life, but that is not like the regulative life as described in the scriptures or by the authorities. So human life is regulated, not animal life. It is said that in a regulated life, one can only understand transcendental knowledge, which is given to us by Kapila Muni. We can't have an ordinary lifestyle. In Bhagavad Gita it says, Mam cha yo vya vicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuya kalpate. The verse in the purport, 14.26. It is said that one who engages in full devotional service unfailingly in all circumstances at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Thus, the ultimate purpose of Kapila Dev was to tell us that we are the spirit soul and not just a normal living entity. So, I'll finish off with this verse. It's a very nice verse. It's in the Padyavali. I think it's verse 41. Aho aho bir nakaler viduyate. I've said this verse before. It's a very nice verse, and I think we should understand what is the main point of this verse is. Aho aho bir nakaler viduyate sudha sudhara maduram pade pade dine dine chandara chandra shitale yasha yashoda tanayasya giyate. It is said, Aho aho bir, O Krishna, this Aho aho bir nakaler viduyate. The scorching sun of Kali Yuga is not affected by one person and one person une, one person only. Aho aho bir nakaler viduyate sudha sudhara, one who not just limited but unlimited maduram pade pade, who gets maduram, which is sweetness, at every step of the way, pade pade. Dine dine chandara chandra shitale. Day by day, they are soothed by the sun, by the moon's rays. Chandara chandra shitale. And that person is the person who sings the yasha, the glories of Yashoda's Tanayasya, the Giyate, which is Krishna. One who sings the fame of Krishna is not affected by the scorching rays of Kali Yuga. Rather, they are soothed by the sun's rays, the moon's rays or the moon's reflection. So I think that's a very nice verse. You should memorize that verse as well. Yeah, I'll finish off there. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande.